Dr. Shashank Heda.
Hi, good evening. How
Good
are you
evening.
all?
Welcome, sir. Should I start now?
Very good, excellent. So help me understand. Can you see my deck?
I can. We can see.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Before your presentation, we would like to see your face, sir. If you
oh, my face is not seen. I am little.
No. The visuals are there. We can see you, Dr. Heda.
Yeah, that is what I was thinking.
We can see you.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I very much wanted to meet you in person. If not in person, at least virtually, I wanted to see you all. So I was a little surprised that I cannot see. I'm not seeing.
Thank you, sir. Now we are starting. Good afternoon, everyone. I, Professor Pramod Kumar, Course Director, Urdu Journalism and HOD Outreach Activities, IIMC, welcome all of you at this special lecture series started by IIMC known as Friday Dialogue. This Friday Dialogue is basically an initiative of DG IIMC Professor Sanjay Dwivedi to orient the students, IIMC students from all campuses on certain critical issues concerning the society and the nation at this moment, and also the media, and also to provide them out of classroom perspective on those issues. Before we start, there are some instructions for the students. They are all aware of all those instructions. I just repeat them. Please don't unmute during the lecture, and questions can be asked only through the chat box. This is my request. Friends, as we all know, India has lost our Chief of Defense Staff, General Bipin Rawat ji, in an accident plane crash. His mortal remains are being cremated in New Delhi, Kent. And before starting the lecture, we pay our respect to his valor. I request everyone who has joined this lecture to join us 1 minute silence in his respect. Thank you. Friends, this Friday Dialogue lecture series was started last year, and last year we had more than 24 special lecture under this series, and this year it is the third lecture, and the title of this lecture is, we all know, Omicron, Our Responsibilities. And for this lecture, we have a very eminent personality from the US, Dr. Shashank Heda, who is working tirelessly for the last over 1 year to educate the medicos and people across the world on COVID pandemic, which has claimed 5,27,07,000 lives across the world till December 9, 2021. In India also, we have lost over 4,74,000 lives. Surely vaccination is going on across the world, and India has also performed well in vaccination. Until December 9, we have administered over 131 crore vaccines across the country. And we all know that even then, the entire world is facing another critical variant of COVID known as Omicron. It has created panic across the world. We in India also are panicked on this variant. We all have a lot of questions about the new variant of COVID and also about the entire COVID pandemic. To discuss all such questions, we have Dr. Shashank Heda from the US with us today. I welcome you, Dr. Shashank Heda, at this lecture.
Thank you so much, sir.
Before requesting you to deliver the lecture, I request Professor Sunitra Sen Narayanji, is a very senior professor in IIMC, to please formally welcome Dr. Shashank Heda on behalf of the Indian Institute of Mass Communication. Professor Sunitra Sen Narayan has been in IIMC for over a long time, and she has added many departments and courses in IIMC. Presently, she is a professor in the Department of Radio and Television Journalism. Professor Sunitra Senji.
Thank you so much, Professor Pramod. As you mentioned, we have a special initiative called the Friday Dialogue Series, and it is my honor to welcome the speaker for today, the US-based Dr. Shashank Heda. He's the founder of COVID Hour for Exchange. The topic of his enlightening talk today is Omicron, our responsibilities. And I welcome all the other students and faculty and other academic staff who have joined in. It's always a pleasure to be part of these series, very current topics, and deliver a lot of knowledge to all of us. So with no more being said and no more time being wasted on my part, I hand over to Professor Pramod to continue the moderation of the lecture. And once again, welcome to Dr. Heda.
Thank you, Professor Sunita Narayanji. Before requesting Dr. Heda to start his lecture, I would like to introduce him. He has done a lot of work in the field of medical science. Dr. Shashank Heda is MD. He's a transformation management advisory consultant working for the Fortune 500 enterprises internationally and specifically focused on North America and Europe. After completing his MBBS and MD pathology, he served the government of Maharashtra as a faculty from 1993 to 1999 at Grant Medical College and Sir J.J. Group of Hospitals, Mumbai. He led research projects within reproductive pathology and oncology as an active faculty. He was selected for Molecular Oncology Postdoctoral Fellowship Program at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center, Dallas, Texas, United States, where he did hands-on work on translational medicine from bench labs to bedside. Concurrently, he also worked on the National Institute of Health and National Cancer Institute supported GELCC program for finding lung cancer gene. His work on cancer has been published in PubMed. His transition to management consulting after completing the CRM program from Florida International University, he offered his advisory services to Fortune 500 clients. Since February 2020, Dr. Heda has been actively working to create and direct the medical care of COVID. Along with 6 globally acclaimed doctors, medicos, he formed COVID RX Exchange, a non-profit organization dedicated to enabling doctors and policy planners. Over 21 months, this group of doctors has grown to over 10,000 doctors globally and has established collaboration alliance with professional organizations with an outreach to over 1 lakh doctors. I request Dr. Heda to please deliver the lecture. Dr. Heda.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pramod Kumar. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Before I get started, let me talk something which is very close to my heart, and why talking with you all here is important for me. You know, Indian Institute of Mass Communication, we all know, since I was a medical student doing my MBBS, doing my MD, I was always very impressed with fifth estate. We would call it fifth estate. I don't know whether you still call it fifth estate, but we would call it fifth estate. And, a completely different gamut of newspapers were there. I left India in 1999, but until then, Times of India, Hindu, and there were so many other newspapers from the north as well, Indian Express. There were many of them. Midday was also very prominent at that time. But the kind of persuasion which I saw, the kind of zeal, the passion of unraveling the thing, issues and concerns which I saw in these newspapers, I was always awestruck. Let me put it that way. And the amount of knowledge which was there in many of these newspapers, and I'll tell you, that was the first thing which I missed when I came to Dallas, Texas. I came to Dallas, Texas. I had Dallas Times, the local newspaper. And I'll tell you, I was not impressed with it at all. I don't want to name some of the prominent newspapers. I was neither impressed with them. The kind of journalism which is there in India is very robust, very healthy, very profuse, and these people are very directed. I mean, very goal directed. Okay. I have that impression, and I'm going to talk one thing here. It is a privilege for me to be on the podiums of Indian Institute of Management, Mass Communication, that Dr. Dwivedi, Dr. Kumar, and Dr. Narayan, you all got me here. It is truly a lifetime privilege for me. Having said this, let me explain. I have already provided the rationale why you guys are so crucial here, and understand the challenges are very different for you. The challenges are, you're not expected to be doctors, but you still have to know medicine. You're not expected to be engineers, but you still have to know the nitty-gritties there. How do we manage? Let me tell you one thing. If someone gives me the pilot seat and says, hey, you know what? I'm going to basically be guiding you. Why don't you drive? Why don't you ride this plane? I'll tell you, I cannot do that. And that's exactly what you guys are doing. This is a very, very impressive field. Okay. And I'll tell you another reason. And I'm going to ask many of you, okay, in the question and answer session. Don't mind me. Let us be very interactive. I'm going to ask some questions to you. Why should I consider your profession noble? Okay, that's my first question. You can answer my question at the end after I answer your questions, but please make a note of those. In my opinion, in my eyes, you guys are noble, okay? And I have a reason for that, and I will tell you that at the end of it. But having said that, it is today I want to take an opportunity here to tell you how things are vitiated, your challenges, and how can I make your life simple, right? So the way I'm going to drive this is basically, I'm going to take 3 cases, okay? And we will wade through it, and then we will unravel the truth, demystify the truth, understand where is the science there, and then we will move on. So before I get started, Dr. Kumar, I have one request for you. I want to take each of this case for not more than 10-12 minutes, okay? Just in case I'm above time, just give me 2 minutes heads up that your time is getting up, because I don't want to overflow and then miss something there, okay? So this is my gentle request to Dr. Kumar and Dr. Narayan. Kindly do that, please. Feel free to tell me, okay? So let me explain that, let us go to the very first case study. I will talk about COVID Rx exchange at the end of it, because I want to talk with you first, and thereafter then we will talk more about what COVID Rx exchange is. Okay, but let us talk about case number 1. Okay, this is basically one of your very prominent English newspaper. Okay, and if you see this news, and this is not even very old. This is December 7th. Today is December 10th. This is December 7th, 2021, and the news is Bangalore doctor who recovered from Omicron tests COVID positive again. And I said, we have a huge group of doctors. We have almost 10,000 doctors, even more than that, and they are all across different regions. One of the group where we have this all the global experts, where we share the updates, where we generate the updates, and then we disseminate those updates. In that particular group, one of the scientists, she said that, this is basically what is happening. And I looked at it and I said, nah, this cannot be. And I'll tell you why. And, before I go there, let us understand the chronology. On 26th of November, WHO declared B1.1.529 as Omicron, a variant of concern. A variant of concern is basically something which has a potential to shock the society. Like, it's not just kind of a variant of interest, which is going to be creating some ripples in the society. This is something which is going to compromise the society, compromise the functioning of the society. So, they called it as VOC. Let me tell you, it is very hard that the virus was detected on 24th of November. It was detected in South Africa. Gauteng is the province where it was detected. Johannesburg is basically is one of the biggest city there in Gauteng province. It was detected on 24th. They found out the mutations. They escalated it to WHO. On 26th of November, WHO called it as a variant of concern. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, somewhere around 1st December, 2nd December, we got this positive case in Bangalore. Now, let me explain something, what happens. It is really, truly important how we decipher this and what is the science behind that, right? So if we don't know the science, we are going to basically fall flat on this kind of a news item, right? So let us understand the science behind. And this is basically my exchange with one of the scientists. And I told her, what is important here is, give me one moment, I'm going to mask this because it is not my intent to disclose the names. Okay, so, we have to understand that once you are infected with COVID, then the infection lasts at least 10 days, maybe 14 days, right? Even if I presume that this person, this gentleman, this doctor from Bangalore, he got the infection on 1st of December, then it is going to last, and at least he's going to be testing positive, or he will turn negative, say around 2 weeks, anywhere from 10th day till 14th day. Okay. In fact, there are viral particles, dead particles, which don't have capability. They keep on getting extruded in our system, like they will be seen in the respiratory, in the exhalation. They will be seen in the stools. So you will continue seeing those particles. So for 6 weeks at least, the stool tests are positive. For 3 to 4 weeks at least, your RT-PCRs are positive. That does not mean that that person is infected, but it takes 7 to 14 days for that person to get better. Now you understand one thing: if this person is getting infected on 1st, how can he get the second infection on 7th of December, right? So how do we see? It is really important. That's why I was telling you, you guys have the responsibility, and you have that capability also to put things into order, to go into the depths of it, to understand the logic behind it, to unravel the science. And that's basically why I want to explain the scientific part of it. Okay, so as I was talking about the transmissibility, right? This is an airborne infection. This is not a fomite based. Okay, fomite is basically, I'm coughing, right? I am basically spraying something settles on this table, right? Maybe maybe a pen, maybe my cell phone, something like that, my book, and then you touch that, and then basically you carry those viruses. That's basically that is a lesser cause. The most common cause is basically airborne. The particle size is so small that it gets airborne, and the drier the environment, the better the dispersal of the air is, right? So we have to understand. If we do not understand the science behind it, then we are going to perpetuate that. And perpetuating this, just understand the impact of this. When someone reads this, they think, oh, after Micron, I'm going to get another infection. And that's a very scary situation, right? So it is the responsibilities on you, the fifth stage, to demystify it, identify, and unravel, and only publish what is required. If it is, say, if it is 24th of December, right, or maybe 7th of January, possibly I can understand. But not on 7th of December that I will take this into consideration, right? So this is one important thing. Please make a note of your questions. We will talk about all the questions eventually, okay? But I think there are many questions. I will tell you how I unravel the entire thing there. But let us quickly understand the SARS-CoV-2 virus itself. Uh, it's I made very simple schematic diagrams here. There are many complex ways of looking at it. And here are the complex ways of looking at it. These are all the different mutations, and these are basically what is happening with the alpha, delta, C, dot 1, dot 2, kappa, eta, and all those variants. But that is not going to make life simple for you, right? So I want to explain what is happening here. Can you see this simple structure, the schematic diagram? Yeah. So that you are pretty aware about the spike proteins. You are aware about the RNA there inside, right? So ideally there are four things, and the most important thing is this yellow structure, which is basically the spike protein. It is this spike protein which has acquired a lot of mutations. Almost 26 to 32 mutations are existing in this spike region of Omicron, right? Some of these mutations, they give Omicron an ability to transmit from one person to the other person at a very fast pace, right? Some of these mutations, it gives the Omicron an ability to multiply truly very fast, right? So at this moment of time, if you look at the current predictions, it is said that the R rate is anywhere from 8 to 12, and in some countries it is really 14 or 16, something like that. What that means is basically this infection is going to spread truly very fast. It's going to explode. But does that mean that we have to be scared? The good part about it, and please remember the good part about it, this infection is very mild. For most, this infection is going to be mild. If excluding the vulnerable population, I'm not even talking about the unvaccinated population. I'm clubbing the vaccinated and unvaccinated together. And I'm talking about this collective population. I'm talking about the population which was already exposed, right? You may say, oh, I heard news that, those who got infection already, they may again get the infection. Yes, that is very true. And I'll tell you, after 6 weeks, if you come back to me and ask me, I'm going to tell you, hey, you know what? I got Omicron, and that's going to be there. But the good part is it's not going to compromise functioning. It's not going to drop your O2 sat. I have some doctor friends in UK. They turned out, their entire families turned out to be Omicron positive. And I talk with them every day. Their O2 sats are around 98. They have no breathlessness. Yes, the entire family is coughing or something like that. That is happening. But what is important here is large infection with mostly mild cases. Okay, I'm not talking about the vulnerable population. Let us understand the vulnerable population. Vulnerable population is basically those who are on cancer treatment, those who are on organ transplant, those who have some immunodeficiencies. Classic example of vulnerable population is HIV, right? Someone has HIV, their immune system is already knocked down. They are taking a lot of antivirals, right? The virus stays longer in these people and then it mutates. But people like me, they are going to I'm going to get infected in 7-10 days. My infection is going to be gone, and I'm going to basically be kicking back again, right? So that's an important thing. We have to really understand how that chronology is going to happen. In fact, one of the prominent reports from South Africa talks about that many of the patients who are infected with Omicron, actually it is an incidental finding. Like, my chest is hurting, or maybe my neck is hurting, my joint is hurting. I go to the doctor, I say, hey, doc, this is happening. That's exactly what is happening, and they do the testing and they find that it is Omicron. How do they diagnose Omicron? Why not it is Delta? Why not it is Epsilon? There is one particular gene which is mutated, and when it is mutated, it does not amplify. And when it is not amplifying, it is not detected. That is called as S gene target failure, or S gene target failure. That's the way to diagnose Omicron, right? So what do we need to do? We have to basically, when you run your campaigns of putting news, you have to ensure that the test kits have at least 3 probes, right? There should be at least 3 sites where the probes are there, the forward and the reverse primers are there, and just not the S gene target should also be there, right? So because if S gene target is not amplifying, but the other 2 are amplifying, that means basically it is Omicron. Do we have it? Say if I'm in Hoshangabad, just say I'm in Bihar somewhere, right? My responsibility as a journalist is basically making that, going and finding with the labs what kind of probes they have, what kind of primers do they have. Do they have primers to detect Omicron, right? And then, accordingly making a news item out of it, that, oh, I went to 10 labs, hardly anyone had this particular test kit there. And then, you escalating it into the newspaper, which is absolutely fair. That's basically what your job is, right? The other people, like, the management, the policymakers, the administrators, the hospital administrators, or the healthcare administrators, IS officer, that is their problem. They will take care of it. But that's basically how the focus should be. Does that make sense to you? Dr. Kumar, I know your students are muted at this moment of time. So possibly, I'm going to request you to give me those feedbacks, or Dr. Narayan can kindly give those feedbacks to me, because those feedbacks are very important for me to understand and calibrate myself. Okay. Are you all with me? I presume. Okay. Let me talk about this the second case study. This is about Pfizer. Okay. And very interesting. Just 2 days back, today is 10th, on 8th of December, there was a news item that Pfizer vaccines are effective against Omicron. And I said, how come they got to do this? Because it takes time. Okay, it's a time-consuming research is very time-consuming, effort-intensive, and dollar-consuming exercise. It's not that easy that you can just put it in maybe 12 days. You can come up with something, right? If you have the ability to come up with some very credible solution here, then you could have done it long back, right? You don't have that. And we know the problem there. And I'm going to talk about all those different steps there. But let us understand this particular thing. So, I read this Pfizer news. I was about to go to bed, and I read this Pfizer news that, the vaccine is very effective. The vaccine is effective against Omicron. And I'm going to tell you where the news was published. The news was published in Bloomberg, and I have copied, pasted line by line things, because, I could not take the screenshot of Bloomberg. But I've copy pasted. You can take this link and check it on your own. This scientist said that he has taken 14 samples, and from dozen patients, like 12 patients, you have taken 14 samples and performed your experiment. My biggest concern for them is this enough? And that is exactly what I want to explain to you all, that what is enough, how are research is conducted. See, tomorrow if I say, oh, turmeric is great for taking care of coronavirus, you have to ask me some questions. There are people who said some kind of there are too many remedies which people have been talking. I don't want to malign people. The intent here is that we have to identify a process and we have to fix the process. The intent is not to criticize an individual. And that's why I want to keep it blinded, except for the pharmaceutical industry. You will see that, I'm going to give 2 examples. One is from the media, the other is from a doctor. I have blinded both of them, because the intent is not to malign them. But with pharmaceutical, I definitely want to let you know the truth. 14 cases you do, and then you say that your findings are preliminary and they can be extrapolated. Tell me one thing, how many people are infected globally? I have one question. This is my second question for you, someone amongst you students, okay? I want you to tell me how many globally, completely, totally, how many people were affected. I don't care whether it is Uganda, India, US, Ireland, whatever. Help me understand the total number of people affected, infected, total number of people who have died from this. And these are the numbers, 14 samples that, Pfizer, a company like Pfizer is saying that their vaccines are effective. So let me talk about how do we understand the effective, how do we conduct research. So here is basically, there are a couple of simple steps which are generally done. So we all know there is basically a causation, right? Cause and effect, right? So there is a relationship between a cause and the effect, right? Now, what we do is we build a hypothesis around this cause and effect. We observe that, we build a hypothesis. Why is this happening? Or why is it not happening the other way around? Something like that. And we define our objectives. Once we define our objectives, thereafter, then we set up a design. We design the experiment, right? It is very important to design an experiment. How many patients are we going to take? How are we going to perform it? Are we going to have some controls? And controls means basically very simple. Like somewhere you give treatment. An example is you have 100 patients. You give 50 patients, you give the treatment or intervention, and 50 patients you don't give the intervention. And then you observe. You keep watching them over a period of time, and then you observe. There is an end point there, right? And after the end point, you take the samples and you say, oh, 50 people who were not, who never had any intervention, they got the infection. And of the 50 people who got the intervention, only 2 got the infection, right? That is effective, right? So there are ways of doing the statistical analysis. I don't want to yet jump into the conclusion that, this was a rightly done experiment. I will tell you there are so many other things which need to be done. So, but the very first thing which has to be done is randomization. Randomization is basically, you cannot be putting all the healthy people on one side and all the unhealthy people on the other side. You want to mix it, right? Randomization. That's basically randomization. Please make a note of that. Okay. And possibly in our discussion, we will basically be talking about this concepts, right? So randomization is one very important thing. The second thing is you want to blind it, right? So blinding is, there are 2 ways of doing it. There is single blind or double blind studies. And we'll talk more about the blinding process as well. But what you do is basically, if I know that this is my son in this particular group, I'm going to basically ensure that he gets a treatment, right? And someone else gets a placebo. That is a human behavior. It's not just about me. It can happen anywhere. So what you want to do is basically you want to blind it. Blind means you don't want the doctors also to know who's getting what, right? There is a third party who's sitting there and he or she is basically giving the intervention. The person who's actually doing the experiment, the set of scientists who are doing the experiment, they don't get to know who they are giving the interventions to, right? So that is basically blinding, right? It is very important. So this blinding and randomization are some of the very fundamental things in any particular experiment. Okay, so that's one thing. Now you start collecting the data. It is really truly important. Just imagine that in this 100 cases, only 2 have turned back, rest all have run away. Now, are you going to basically, anytime, even you can tell me that, that is so insufficient. You please do your experiment once again. And I say, no, you know what? I spent so many $1,000 or so many $1 million. I just can't do it. I have to get it published. This publication will not have no relevance at all, right? So it is really truly important. The sample size is very, very important. The sample size with which you started in the beginning, during the design, and the sample size at the end of it, it is very, very important. Okay, so but understand there are some rare disorders. I have seen some of the very rare disorders. There are 450 cases. I met this patient in North Carolina, and it's something like progeria. like that boy has lost all hair. He looks like an 80-year-old boy. It is not progeria though. It's a very different syndrome. And I met his parents, and I met the boy also. He's just hardly 13 or 14, but he looks 84 or something, 88, something like that. There are only 450 cases of that sort, right? So if there are only so rare, if it is such a rare disorder, right, then you have to basically, the sample size is not going to be adequate. Understandable. There are ways of adjusting the sample size. But in this particular case, there are millions and millions who are affected because of COVID, right? So this 14 cases is so insufficient. Definitely, this is not a right thing to disclose it to the press. In one of the news, this Dr. Seetal said, "Oh, you know what? I worked so tirelessly in the last 7-10 days that if I would have not died of COVID, I would have died of exhaustion." My concern is with the press. I am not concerned about Dr. Alex Siegel. I'm concerned about the press. Why did the press publish this kind of work? That's basically the concern. And we definitely don't want this kind of things to happen, right? We want those things, like you yourself should say that, 12 patients, 14 samples. What are you doing here? Is this sufficient? This is not sufficient. This does not qualify to be sufficient. So, I know you have done great work, but, sorry, you have to extend it. You have to get more sample size, right? That's a very, very important thing which I want to let you know. Okay. Now, the other thing which is very important is, generally in medicine, we call it as confidence interval. Okay. And that confidence interval is basically, if you repeat the experiment somewhere else, it should be 95% and above, right? Say you use your calculator, right? You do whatever math you do, and then you give it to me, and I do the math, and I get I get the same result. That is basically confidence interval. That is 100% confidence interval, right? So it is truly important. But say if you give a recipe to me, and I come to your home, you are cooking something, you cook wonderful dishes, something like that, and I say, hey, can you give me the recipe? And I come back with the recipe, I cook it again, and the food is almost same, right? So we can still say, oh, I have confidence in Shashank. He can still he can follow my recipe, right? But something which turns out to be drastically different, you don't have the confidence, right? That is confidence interval. But in statistics, there is a value called p value. That p value is very, very important. If the p value is less than 0.95, then we don't consider it to be significant. So it is truly important that you have to have a significant value. This is an example of, we typically call it as epistemology, right? A science of doing research. You just can't call anything as science, right? And it is truly important to go through these steps which I just enumerated, right? So, and that is how you come to a conclusion. If the p-value is significant, right, and then we say, okay, I think this experiment turned out to be good. Whatever the outcome, I don't worry about the outcome. It can be A plus C is D, or A plus C is equal to G. It doesn't matter really. But if the statistical values are significant, we have faith, or the results are validated. You understand me? So that's an important thing which I wanted to talk with you all. Okay, so let me go to a third case, and this is a video. Okay, so you'll have to pardon me. Let me give you one moment. If there are some challenges, we will take care of it. Okay. Let me know if you can see the video.
So we can't see it.
Oh, you can't see? Okay.
Yes, we can listen to it, but can't see the video.
Okay. Got it. Give me one moment, please. Let me share that particular screen. Okay, bear with me for a moment. Good, you told me. Okay. Stop sharing. Okay. Bear with me. I'm trying to figure it out because okay. I believe this way. Okay. Can you see that? Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see now.
Okay. Okay. Now the other challenge is starting the screen because your window is hiding this. So let me see if I can minimize it and then start. Okay.
ह्या सार्समुळे काहीच बिघडणार नाही आपलं.
Let
आणि
me
नेमकं
start from
तसंच
the
झालं.
Okay, so while I play this video, I want you all to make a note of it. Okay, I want you to like there are this is I think 7 minutes 50 seconds. This is a very classical video. The language is in Marathi, but we have given subtitles in English. The subtitles will keep changing. I want you to make a note of the timing, and I want you all to discuss this with me. What is so wrong about this?
कुठून आला हा कोरोना आणि हा कोरोना काय करणार आहे? कोरोना तुमचं काहीच वाकडं करू शकत. काही वर्षापूर्वी सार्स आलेला काय केलं त्यांनी? मी गेलेलो रेडिओवर आणि सांगितलं होतं की ह्या सार्समुळे काहीच बिघडणार नाही आपलं. आणि नेमकं तसंच झालं. काय बिघडलं? काहीही बिघडलं नाही. मी तुम्हाला स्टॅम्प पेपरवर लिहून द्यायला तयार आहे की कोरोना भारताचं आणि भारतीयांचं काही बिघडवू शकणार नाही. अरे इन्फ्लुएन्झामुळे लोक मरतात, न्यूमोनियामुळे पोरं मरतात, हगवणीमुळे पोरं मरतात लहान. त्याच्याकडे लक्ष द्या ना. हे कसले फालतूगिरी करण्यात तुम्ही भानगडीत तुम्ही पडताय. ऍक्च्युअल पब्लिक हेल्थ प्रॉब्लेम काय आहेत भारताचे ते कोण बघणार? टीबी, मलेरिया, हगवण, अॅक्यूट रेस्पिरेटरी इन्फेक्शन, लहान मुलांचं, हे खरे प्रॉब्लेम्स आहेत आपले. मग ते प्रॉब्लेम सोडून तुम्ही करोनाच्या मागे काय लागलाय? आज इन्फ्लुएन्झामध्ये लाखो लोक अमेरिकेत मरतायत. त्यांना कोणी सांगितलं त्यांना करोनाची भीती आहे? हे चायनाने काढलेलं एक हे फॅड आहे आणि या फॅड मध्ये कुठेतरी ते वॅक्सिन काढतील आणि ते वॅक्सिन हजारो रुपयांना विकतील आणि सगळे लोक मूर्ख होतील आणि ते घेतील. आणि मास्क नवीन तयार करण्याचे कारखाने तयार होतील आणि ते कारखान्याच्या वर हजारो लोक करोडपती होतील. हे काय चाललंय? मला अजिबात कशात तथ्य वाटत नाही. आणि कुठचाही व्हायरस आपल्या इथे टिकणार नाही जास्त दिवस. कारण अनंत प्रकारचे व्हायरसेस आपल्या देशात फिरत असतात आणि अनंत लोकांना त्याची बाधा होते. त्यांना इम्युनिटी आपली एकदम सरस आहे या व्हायरसेस साठी. त्याच्यामुळे मला असं वाटत नाही की कुठच्याही या कोरोना नावाच्या व्हायरसमुळे काही फरक पडेल. आता कोरोना बद्दल थोडीशी माहिती सांगतो. आता कोरोना नावाचा व्हायरस हा एक खूप मोठा व्हायरस आहे. एक 400 ते 500 मायक्रो त्याची साईज आहे. तर त्याची साईज असल्यामुळे साधा मास्क लावला तर तो पहिला आत शिरूच शकणार नाही. साधा रुमाल जरी धरलात तुम्ही तरी तो कोरोना व्हायरस आत शिरू शकतो. दुसरा हा हवेमध्ये वाहत नाही पण तो ग्राउंडेड आहे म्हणजे तो पडतो.
So this gentleman is saying that this is not airborne, okay? And I'm going to tell you he's a doctor, okay? And that is exactly where my objections are, okay? So let us continue with this video. This is a classic case study, and you journalists have the role of identifying these kind of people and then ignoring them. I'm not going to say that you have to write bad about them. You have to ignore them. You cannot put them into the media. You cannot get them the attention. Okay, give me one moment. I'm going to continue this.
रस्त्यात पडतो. मग त्याच्यामुळे तो ट्रान्समिटेड बाय एअर होत नाही. एअर ट्रान्समिशन त्याचं होत नाही. दुसरी गोष्ट, कुठेही समजा आता मेटल सरफेसवर पडला तर 12 तास जिवंत राहतो. म्हणजे त्याच्यावर तो जिवंत राहत नाही. समजा कपड्यावर पडला तर 9 तास जिवंत राहतो. त्याच्यानंतर सर्वात महत्वाची गोष्ट म्हणजे आता आपल्याकडे उन्हाळा येतोय. 26-27 डिग्रीच्या वर तो जिवंतच राहू शकत नाही. जर तो जिवंतच राहू शकत नाही तर आपल्याकडे टेम्परेचर आता नाही कमीत कमी 35 ते 37 डिग्री आपल्या मुंबईमध्ये, पुण्यामध्ये 40 डिग्री, नागपूरमध्ये 50 डिग्री. अरे कोरोनाची काय हालत होईल तुम्ही सांगा. तो हतप्रभ होईल इकडे. त्याला काही इथे शक्य नाही जिवंत राहणं, आणि तो जिवंत राहणं शक्य नसल्यामुळे तो कोणाला अफेक्ट करणं पण शक्य नाही. आणि साध्या गोष्टी, जो व्हायरस कुठलाही इन्फ्लुएन्झा सारखा व्हायरस आहे, तर कुठलाही व्हायरस असो, तर तुम्ही गरम पाण्याने जर नुसत्या गुळण्या केल्या, त्याच्यामध्ये थोडस मीठ टाकलं, गरम पाण्याने गुळण्या केल्या. आयुर्वेदात सांगायचं झालं तर अर्धा चमचा हळद तुम्ही रोज घेतली, रोज रात्री प्यायली, तर तुम्हाला कोरोनाची बाधा होण्याची शक्यता नाही.
What about that things means आता जे पसरत आहे की गोमूत्र, शेण खाल्लं की कोरोनाला आपण बचाव करू शकतो कोरोनापासून, हे खरंच सत्य आहे का यामध्ये?
हे बघा, आता गोमूत्र किंवा ह्या गोष्टीमध्ये अँटीऑक्सिडंट्स आहेत किंवा अँटीबायोटिक्स आहेत की ज्याच्यामुळे फायदा होतो. पण कशाला, तुम्हाला गरजच नाही आहे हे सगळं करण्याची. मी तुम्हाला साधी हळद सांगितली, तुम्हाला काय गरज आहे बाकी सगळं करण्याची? नुसतं हळदीच्या गरम पाण्याने गुळण्या करा, बस झालं, आणि काही करण्याची गरज नाही. आणि अगदीच करायचं झालं तर आपल्या घरात तुळस असते ना, तुळशीच्या पानांचा काढा करून प्या तरी बस झालं. कापूर असतो ना, कापूर, आपल्या घरात रोज कापूर जाळा, कोरोना फिरकणार सुद्धा नाही तिकडे. म्हणजे ह्या गोष्टी मी फक्त सांगितल्या, पण माझं हे पहिली गोष्ट ही तथ्य आहे, म्हणजे कोरोनाचं खरंच काहीच होणार नाही. मी गॅरंटी देतो लिहून, मी स्टॅम्प पेपरवर लिहून देतो पाहिजे तर की कोरोना आपल्या देशाचं, आपल्या नागरिकांचं काहीही वाकडं करू शकणार नाही. आणि बहुतेक काही दिवसातच ऑटोमॅटिकली ही जी आउटब्रेक आहे हा शमेल.
म्हणजे एकीकडे हे सोशल मीडियावर अफवा सुरू आहेत, दुसरीकडे इतका क्यॉस निर्माण झालेला आहे, इतकी भीती निर्माण झाली आहे लोकांमध्ये. अक्षरशः सॅनिटायझर्स, म्हणजे 10 मिनिटं हात धुवायला पाहिजे, साबणाने हात धुवायला पाहिजे, सॅनिटायझर वापरलंच पाहिजे, किंवा तुम्ही जर बाहेर जात असाल तर ते N95 नावाचं जे मास्क आहे ते तुम्ही लावलं पाहिजे. अशा पद्धतीने लोक भीती निर्माण झालेली आहे. आणि लिटरली सॅनिटायझर्स आता त्यांचा तुटवडा निर्माण झालेला आहे केमिस्ट मध्ये.
बरोबर आहे. मग सॅनिटायझर निर्माण करणाऱ्यांचं भलं झालं ना, मग ते करोडोपती होणार आणि आपण मूर्खासारखे फसवले जाणार, ह्याच गोष्टी होणार. बरोबर. मग होऊ नये म्हणूनच तू ही मुलाखत घ्यायला माझ्याकडे आलीस ना, आणि म्हणूनच मी सांगतो की अजिबात भानगडी सुद्धा पडू नका. साध्या साबणाने तुम्ही हात धुता ना रोज, बस झालं, त्याच्यावर काही करण्याची गरज नाही. म्हणजे अजिबातच नाही. म्हणजे कुठच्याही सॅनिटायझर किंवा तुमचा मास्क वगैरे हे सगळं युजलेस आहे, कळलं की नाही? कारण तो हवेतनं पसरतच नाही, तुम्हाला आधीच सांगितलं ना, तो ग्राउंडेड आहे. तर तुम्ही दुसरीकडे कुठे हात लावला वगैरे वगैरे तर, आणि कुठे पसरणार तो? जिथे अत्यंतिक प्रमाणात रुग्ण आहेत त्या ठिकाणी तो थोडाफार पसरेल, पण जिथे अजून रुग्ण निर्माणच झालेलं नाहीये तिथे कुठे तो पसरणार आहे? नाही पसरणार तेवढं. आणि मी तुम्हाला सांगतो की माझा अनुभव सांगतो की सार्स.
Okay, so this is again a case study. Let me once again talk about a couple of things. See, the intent is not to malign someone. if I were you, I would simply ignore that person. Okay, I would consider that that person doesn't have enough thing. But my bigger concern is, I'll tell you, this is not the only video. I have literally so many videos and messages coming to me every day, and they just talk like that. And one of the biggest scary thing is people in apron. Okay, they will white that apron. They will put a stato, they will have all the certificates behind them, and then they talk about all those things, right? What happens is that that creates a sense of authenticity. Why can't they talk without apron? Simple questions. Remove your apron. You have science, right? You remove your apron, remove your stato, remove all your qualifications, and talk science, right? They don't want that, because they want to talk gullible. And I'm going to explain in this particular case. This man is talking science, then he's gradually basically talking no science, and then finally he's talking anti-science. This man was talking about antioxidants and antibodies being present in cows pee pee and cows poo poo. So that's basically the level. And what happens is that this kind of videos, they move into the social in the society, right? You are the one who can identify it. It is very rare that people like us, the doctors, will get to see it, right? But you are the ones who are going to get it. You are the ones who have to trace it. You have to stop it. Again, I'm going to tell you very clearly, there are two factors here. One, we don't want to make it personal. Okay, we want to fix the process. It's fixing the process is very important, because we are going to chase one person, then second person, the third person. That's unending. But fixing the process is going to get you the results. Number one. Number two, you will always be deceived that there is a sense of authenticity in what someone talking that, right? And that authenticity actually is basically bulbulaya kehte hain na, like dhool jhokna kehte hain na, so something like that. So we have to truly understand how to do that, and that is why I told you the simple examples. I don't want to say that there are no antioxidants or antibodies in cow's poo-poo or cow dung, right? But what I'm trying to tell you is basically you have to conduct an experiment. There is a way to conduct the experiment, and you conduct the experiment and then prove it. And if it is proven, that's basically how it is. That's basically a fact. But if it is not proven, it is not, right? As simple as that. So, I think those are few of the things which I wanted to talk with you all. I think my time is up here. It is 5:23. Almost I talked with you all for more than the allocated time. So I'm going to hand over the things to Dr. Dr. Narayan, as well as Dr. Pramod Kumar. Kindly over to you, sir. Help me understand with the question answer sessions.
Thank you, sir. We have some questions from the students, and now they have, I think, started typing the questions. You can also read at the chat box, and there is a question by Medhavi Singh. She writes that, sir, how long it takes our lungs to fully recover from COVID? What all effects COVID have on lungs on a long run?
Very, very, very interesting question. And I'll tell you, she's so on spot in asking this question, because it is a respiratory viral infection, right? Now, let us understand, it depends upon the level of injury. If the level of injury is significant, there will be scarring. You may even see some parts of the lungs have collapsed. Okay, some part of the lungs have blown up, right? Lungs are pretty much, I don't know if you had a chance to look at any model of lung. Maybe you can just simply YouTube it, and you will see all the small alveoli are there. When those alveolar septa, they are destroyed, that particular alveolus is of no use, right? It's a very important thing. Sometimes they collapse, sometimes they are filled with water, sometimes they collapse, sometimes they become solidified, sometimes they get destroyed, right? Let us understand, to explain your question properly, let me talk about mild, moderate, and severe. what we see is that almost 80% of the cases are mild. Maybe around 15% are moderate. Okay, I'm not talking about Omicron. I'm talking about Delta or the previous variants. Okay, and 5% are really truly serious, right? See, this 5% which are truly serious, they may take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, but it all depends upon the type of injury which was there. If something is destroyed, it is not going to be replaced, right? So we do see those kind of patients, and you know it very well. You have heard about it, long COVID, right? Long COVID is basically essentially one of the key components is that they have compromise in the airway in their pulmonary system, and it's not just the pulmonary system where the compromise is. The compromise is sometimes multi-system, right? So, but coming back to your question, if it is mild, the probability of this patient recovering to full functioning is very, very high. Okay. If they are moderate, I would say I would scale it back significantly. And for the severe one, we will have to wait and watch. But this kind of question, though I gave you a ballpark here, this kind of question can be answered specifically only with a lot of patient data. And we have to look at the specifics of the case and then determine it. Okay. Have I answered your question?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a question from Mr. Ankur Vijayavargiya. He asks, what are the symptoms of Omicron variant?
What are the symptoms of Omicron variant? Yeah, that's a very, very interesting question. I think my article was published in Dainik Bhaskar as well as News 18, and there is another columnist who wrote about it. So there are 6 to 8 constellation of symptoms, and this time around it is not happy hypoxia. This time around it is not loss of taste. This time around it is not loss of smell. This time around it is headache, body ache, and fever. Then you have headache, body ache, fever. Then you have some constitutional symptoms. But what is missing is the spikes. What is missing is the O2 sat. O2 sat is consistently, as I was talking with you earlier, the O2 sat is consistently maintained around 98, something in that range. I have not seen currently at this moment of time, I have not seen patients who are infected or diagnosed with Omicron whose O2 sat has gone down below 96. They are coughing. So, in a ballpark, I call it as like, more than common cold, less than flu, something like that. That's basically what it is. But these findings are applicable to, these findings are applicable to the non-vulnerable category. And I described the vulnerable category, right? We have to make it clear that, whether it is vaccinated or whether it is unvaccinated, but if they are not cancer patients, if they are not on immune modulators, if they are not HIV patients, right? So, any of the immune system, anything which is putting the immune system down, even the elderlies are part of that. So if that is the case, then they are part of the vulnerable group. I'm not talking about them. Their risk is significant. We have to understand. So far, there are no deaths reported with Omicron, but this is basically what is going to happen. Have I answered your question?
I think you have answered well. There is a question from Anuj Kamal. He asks, is Omicron variant really a variant of concern?
Very interesting question. In fact, this morning itself, I was, Anuj, first of all, congratulations for asking. This is not a simple question, which is asking. This is a very, very intelligent question. And I'll tell you why. Because on 26, see, when you see those mutations, those scary mutations, right away you start thinking, wow, it's going to have high transmissibility, it's going to have high infectivity, this is going to cause severe disease. And immediately WHO kicked in. On Saturday they had their meeting, and on Monday again they met, and then on 26th they said it's VOC, variant of concern, right? This morning I was just thinking, now there is a possibility they might scale it back because it is turning out to be a milder disease. What exactly is variant of concern? That's an important question. So, I'm going to basically quickly go to a slide here. I believe, can you still see my slide deck? Can you see my slide deck?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, give me one moment, okay. I believe this is, okay. Bear with me, okay. There is a reason I'm trying to show this, okay. But anyways, I can talk without that. I think I will have to search amongst different windows there. Now, understand something. What is a variant of concern? What is a variant of interest? Variant of interest and variant of concern, they all have almost same level of mutation. But when the treatments fail, when the interventions fail, right? And, the transmissivity is definitely high. Infectivity is very high, but the disease is going to be very severe and which is not going to respond. So when you see that kind of observation, that is when you call it as variant of concern. Now, Anuj is asking a very fundamental question, and I will not be surprised that after a couple of weeks, WHO may scale it back to VOI, okay? Because, they are still in the phase of observing whether it is really a serious virus which is going to compromise the communities and the societies, right? The way Delta happened, right? So they are still studying that. But at this moment of time, yes, the disease is mild. I'm going to tell you, many people are going to be infected. But, it is going to be a very, very mild disease, okay? Once again, the caveat here is non-vulnerable population, okay? So, Anuj, I have to congratulate you for asking that, okay? Very, very interesting, very intelligent question, okay.
Sir, again, there is an interesting question.
Yes.
Will India face a third wave?
That's a very important question. Let us understand what is third wave, okay? The moment we talk about third wave, we are talking about serious people, not the volume of the patients. We are talking about huge volume and huge number of serious patients, right? That is basically what is a wave. At this moment of time, let me tell you, you all have some kind of let us dial back 2019, 2018. We always had some kind of common cold, some viruses, going here and there. And that was a massive number, but it hardly compromised us, right? Did we ever call it as a wave? We did not call it as a wave. Why? Because people were not getting admitted. People were not so sick that their functioning was getting compromised. So a wave is only when the numbers are huge, plus the seriousness is also huge. In my opinion, Omicron does not have the potential to cross a third wave. Now, does that mean that we should put our guards down? Not at all. I've been writing it again and again, sending messages again and again that, you have to get vaccinated, number one. And then you have to also, have to, give me one moment, okay? I'm trying to focus on this. So you have to get vaccinated, that's number one. And number two, you have to follow the CAP, that is COVID appropriate behavior. There are many guidelines which the government has given. You have to follow those strictly, right? Let us presume that, here is my way of looking at it. And I'm going to tell you the way we deliberated the case. On 24th of November, I talked with one of the top-notch authorities in India. He has all the genomic data of India, okay, the government of India. And I said, I don't want to name the person, okay? I said that, he and I, we talk at like first name. He and I, we call each other by first name. So I said, what is your opinion? And he said, I think this is what it is. I said, see, I've seen the mutations as well. I think you should first restrict all the travel coming from outside. He said, no, there is no need for that. I said, see, understand something. There is a risk, there is a threat, right? Do we want to face Delta type situation? And he said, no, I'm going to tell you, we are not going to face that kind of thing. There is no threat, there is no risk, we should not basically. And he's a policy maker at the central level, okay? He's one of the very prominent policy maker, okay? Because he has credible data. I said, see, I've seen that data. I don't want to again name him. I said, I have seen the data. He said, I have also seen the data. I said, okay, let me do one thing. Let us differ, Let us agree to disagree on this. And thereafter, then I called Indian Express. I wrote a blog that was around 1:30 my time or 2 o'clock my time. I wrote a blog. I said, see, my logic was very simple. Let us presume that there are two scenarios, two polar scenarios. One is basically this is a mild virus. The other is basically a severe virus. Can we take that risk of severe virus with us? We just burned our hands, not even 6-8 months back. Do we want a repeat of that? At what cost? So many people have died. So many business got disrupted, families got disrupted. So many businesses went down. Our country suffered. Do we really truly want to do that? And as against that, what do we have to do? Just take the 6 nations where this virus is likely to come from and put travel restrictions. We never said break diplomatic ties and anything, nothing of that sort. So but Indian Express, the editor of Indian Express, he understood my point very well. I only had to talk with him for 4.5 minutes. And I said, you know what, Amitabh-ji, I want this to be expedited. And I don't know why I was talking for another 2 minutes. He was so convinced in 4.5 minutes. He said, you just send me that write-up. I'm going to get it published. I said, okay. I kept on talking for 6.5 minutes total talk time. And immediately after hanging up on him, I sent him that. And in 16 hours, he got it published. Sunday morning, Indian Express had this news that, we should basically do the travel restriction. On that, of course, it became a political issue because someone from Maharashtra is saying that, you lock it down, and put the travel restriction, and someone from some other, I'm not part of it. I love India. I love the people of India. I have nothing to do with the politics of India. My logic was very simple. Put the restrictions and gradually lift them. If you see that the threat is less, then gradually keep lifting it. As simple as that. As against that, what are we going to lose? Maybe some amount of business with South Africa, Mozambique, and all those nations there, right? So, it's not a big thing there, right? So it is maybe diplomatic thing, but, we can always manage. In the history of countries, it is basically 100 saal chalta hai stories country ka. Ho jata hai. We can patch up with them eventually. If they felt bad, we can patch up with them. But that was basically the thought. Now, for 2 days, I've been talking with the on 26th of November, 27th of November, I've been talking with the policymakers at the central level, at the state level. And, they said, no, there is basically a difference between the central and the state government. Then I talked with the editor of Dainik Bhaskar. And I said, see, this is what is happening. I want this to be published. And he was so kind. He was so gracious. And he immediately got it published. And I think after 2, 3, 4 days, because there was too much of hangama, a lot of policymakers, at least 2, 3 more of policymaker friends of mine, they wrote me messages in WhatsApp that, Dr. Shashank, we differ with you, this, that, something like that. I don't know whether I created noise there, but one thing is very clear. See, I am least interested in the politics of the country because, I am now a US citizen. I don't have any interest in doing that. I am interested, उस मिट्टी में मैं grow हो चुका हूँ, उस मिट्टी का मेरे पे एहसान है. I have never told you the story, but मेरा MBBS के वक्त 6 months का मेरा fees, my fees were 48 rupees, and my hostel fees were 78 rupees. And when I was doing my MD, my hostel fee, my college fees were 148 rupees for 6 months. I'll tell you, there are only 2 institutions. One is the parental institution. The other is the government or the people of the country who have taught this person. And this person came here, right? Okay, I have not forgotten the obligations on me, but it is really important that, if there is a way I can give back, I will definitely care for them. And we felt very, very bad. I'll tell you, in the last 12 months, I've left my job and I'm completely focused on doing only this part of the work. I have organized all the doctors, and I'll tell you, 98% of our doctors are diaspora. Diaspora means of Indian origin. And whichever country they are basically coming and doing all this work here. No one is asking me for a single dime. We don't pay anyone a single dime. I see that kind of selflessness. I mean, completely selfless people. I see that kind of pain there. We feel so good. I'll tell you, every day is so fulfilling for me. I don't care whether I'm working or not, but I definitely care that there are people who are working, who are ready to contribute for the country. This is basically, it is very, very important that we take care of our people. And who are those people? See, if I'm in Valkeshwar, I know how to take care of myself, right? But if I'm in some Dharavi, I'm so vulnerable. I'm not even seeing on anyone's dashboard. Those are the people who need attention, and we have been doing that. We have done it with tribal. We went to tribal areas. We did city planning for Coimbatore. We have been working with city of Mumbai. We gave policy guidelines, reopening guidelines to government of Maharashtra. We helped government of Rajasthan. We helped government of Chhattisgarh, as well as many of the policy makers in Delhi. We have been talking with them. The point I'm trying to make, we really have to bring some substance here, and we have to basically come to that. And you are the people who can do that. You journalists, and it's not for this, COVID is not the only thing. I'll tell you, your footing is on solid grounds. You are from IIMC. Your footing is on a solid ground. You have very good didactics. The next 30 years, we are so confident that people like you are going to basically get the results there.
Sir, we have, I think, more than 20 questions now. Mm-hmm. I would request you to please answer them in brief, as we have to conclude at 5:25. There is a question from Tufan Yadav who asks, how you see the role of yoga and Ayurveda in treating COVID viruses?
Okay. So, let me tell you that yoga is this is my personal belief. Okay. And I don't have to mix personal belief with science. So I'm not going to, I have to take away my hat, that scientific hat, and to tell that, yoga definitely has benefits. There are certain yogas like Kapalbhati, which help you improve your respiratory functions. But, I'm not the right person to comment on how yoga can benefit. Now, coming to Ayurveda, I don't know. Personally, I'll tell you, I have seen some of the jadibutis, some of those things are there. I think they took tulsi, kala mira, this, that. I've been talking with people in Himachal Pradesh and many other areas, remote areas. What did they do? And they have been telling me. But once again, I have no knowledge of that. I am not the right person to answer that.
Okay, sir. There is a question from Asim Mishra who asks, which age group of people are vulnerable to get infected with Omicron? Is it infecting youth mass more than others, even after taking both doses of vaccine?
Okay, very good question. So let me explain that, two aspects of it. One is transmissibility. We all are going to get the disease, many of us, irrespective of whether we are vulnerable or not vulnerable. But what is going to happen is, there is, barring those vulnerable people, almost a huge swath, almost 99%, 98%, they are going to basically come out of it. We are still learning the statistics at this moment of time. We don't have the precise statistics. That's why our eyes are all glued on South Africa. But as of now, what appears is that, this is going to be a mild disease. So, that's all we can definitely say. Many people are going to get this virus. Whether you're vaccinated, whether you had previous COVID, you're going to still get it. Okay. But it looks like it is going to be a milder disease. That much I can say.
There is one question from Pankaj who asks, does severity of sickness in case of COVID depends on the volume of viruses a person is exposed to at once suddenly? Is mask helpful in that way, that it doesn't let us face a large volume of virus at once?
Very interesting question. Pankaj, first of all, I appreciate you for asking this question. Now, one thing science has not proven is basically the dose of the virus which gets you infected, and the dose of the virus which gives you the immune protection. So we don't know that. Right. So, and I'm still searching for that answer. There are no researches. I believe there are some, just a couple of weeks back, I saw some animal studies where they have done something like that. But, in human beings, we don't know. And I'm going to tell you the reason for that. We all, first of all, the virus itself, when we are talking about Omicron, Omicron is not the only kind of virus right now going on. There is a Delta plus variant which is going on. There is some Kappa going on. You can see that, maybe Kappa is 2%, 1%, something like that, right? Now, that is basically a variation within the virus. But now we have to also understand that I may be more vulnerable as compared to Dr. Kumar, right? So, when, I get a small dose, I may be infected and, I may have some moderate to severe disease. And Dr. Kumar may be exposed to a bulk of it and he may still not be, right? So that's basically what we have to understand here. So one, we do not have the minimal dose which is going to cause you disease or immune protection, number one. Number two, we are going to differ, individual differences are going to be there. Number three, we have to wear masks. There is no question about it. And we cannot be putting some kind of cloth mask. We have to have a nice 5-ply, good quality mask. You should go and talk with your medical experts there and ask them that, is this a good mask? And I've seen people putting the mask here. I'll tell you, just 7 days back, there was a lead driver and he said, I'm not going to leave the mask here. I wanted, it's kind of taxi. Okay. I said, why don't you put the mask in? He said, no, I'm not going to put it there. For the last 18 months, I've been driving like this. I said, no, I'm not going to take your lift. And I canceled it. Point is basically that kind of mask is of no help at all. You have to put it here and then, there is a gap here. You have to place it and you have to basically do that. Now, I'm going to tell you another example, very important to understand. I had a patient from Delhi who from some of the best areas in Delhi. I don't remember the areas in Delhi. And he got infected. And I asked him, how did you get infected? He's a husband of a radiologist there. And I said, he said, no, I'm vaccinated. I don't go out and all that kind of all precautions, this, that. Then he said, I asked him, did you travel? And he said, yes, I traveled in the tube. They call that train the tube, right? So he traveled in tube. And I said, was there anyone coughing next to you? And he said, yes, there was. How do you know? And there was a guy who was sitting next to me. While coughing, he would put the mask down and do the coughing and then he will pull it back. That's no good at all. So, the mask has to be there. You have to wear it properly. Have I answered this question? I know it was a little long, but that's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
We have two questions, one from Harshika Yadav and second from Dr. Pawan Kondal. They ask, I think they have a similar question. Harshika asks, is third dose of vaccine needed? And Dr. Kondal asks, do we need booster shots to fight Omicron?
Very good question. Both the questions are very important. Okay. Third shot. Let me explain. See, we have to understand the antibody titer are going to fall gradually. Generally, the titers fall in 6 months. Okay. So you should stimulate the immune system before that. Okay. That's basically many of the vaccines which we get in childhood, they are basically done that way, right? So you stimulate it enough so that there is enough memory and then, the titers can stay constant, right? So, that is why third dose is definitely required, right? We never know how, see, at this moment of time, that's our only protection, right? Now, coming to Dr. Pawan's question, right? He asked, do we need a booster for Omicron? Now, let us understand this. When do we take a booster? In my opinion, like, we are WHO and, many of the scientific bodies, they are still deliberating. They are still basically thinking about it. Should we develop a booster for Omicron? When just 14 days back, like, around 28th of November, even President Biden said that, we are going to develop a booster for Omicron. So they were thinking of developing a booster for Omicron. That is still in the pipeline, just taking a small piece of the the RNA and basically developing the booster. But are they really going to develop it if the disease stays mild? I am not sure. So, at this moment of time, there are some solid discussions going on for the development of booster. But I don't know whether, how the pattern is going to emerge. If it is a completely dead virus, dead means absolutely mild virus, right? Do we really need booster for that? I don't know, because there is a cost which goes into the making of the vaccine and then, rolling out the vaccine into the communities, right? So it's a humongous task, right? So that's basically my answer. Can you tell me with the next question, please?
Yeah, the next question is from Sajan Kumar. वो पूछ रहे हैं कि क्या कोरोना की मौजूदा वैक्सीन ओमिक्रॉन के खिलाफ असरदार है?
Very good, Sajan Kumar. Very good. So let's talk about two aspects: efficacy and efficiency. And I keep talking about it every third day. Efficiency and efficacy. Efficacy is when you do the experiment, right? What we typically call it as clinical trials. It is at that time that you call it as efficacy. The moment it is rolled out into the public, right, we call it as efficiency. The efficiency of Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, all have come down with Omicron. Okay, because and the reason is very simple. The genetic structure has changed, right? So the proteins have changed. Since the proteins have changed, they are no more the same, and that's why these previous vaccines are not going to be effective, right? Not as efficient. Okay, that's basically my answer. So if you read the reports, you will see that the efficiency has gone down from 83 to 63, something like that. And the efficiency varies for all the different 8-10 different vaccines there. But yes, the vaccine efficiency has gone down with Omicron.
Sir, we have another question from Bhupendra Pantola. Who asks, for people, it's a very thin line between concern with regard to Omicron and panic because of it. Could you please shed some light over that line?
A very valid concern. If it is causing panic, see, first of all, I always tell this thing. We will see, Bhupendra, we will always see, if not Omicron, we'll see some events in life where our emotions are triggered. First thing what we have to do always in life, and I tell this to my son, I have a 24-year-old son who's working in Bay Area, right? I tell him the same thing. Like, he was driving one day on the freeway and suddenly the car stopped and he called me and he was so panicking because freeways are like 80 miles an hour or something like that. He pulled it on the shoulder and he called and I said, see, don't trigger your emotions. Then you are going to lose control. You're not going to take right decisions. So first thing is, whether it is a situation which can be controlled or not, panic is not the button you want to press, number one. Number two, yes, there is basically what has happened is there is so much of scare which was created because of Omicron that, it resulted into panic. So even if you tell me don't get panicky, I'm still going to be panicking, right? So, we have to understand that is a normal behavior. What we have to tell people is that just follow the precautions. Get yourself vaccinated. There is no reason for being for panicking, right? That's basically a simple answer, Bhupendra. Have I answered your question, Bhupendra?
Sir, we have a lot of questions, but this is the last question from Nirmitha Rao. She asked, post-COVID, there are many deaths, saying silent attacks. How should we tackle this? She asks, after 50 plus age group people recover from COVID, what are the precautions they should follow?
Okay, very interesting. Before I answer this question, let me say it this way, Dr. Kumar. I apologize for giving long answers and I'm missing many questions there. Please send all the questions to me. I will answer them and I will send it back. Okay. It is my obligation. That obligation is on me to fulfill. I will do that. Okay. Kindly do that because I don't want any of your students to be unhappy because of not getting their answers. Okay. We'll definitely do that. Give me 24 hours. You should get the reply there. But you send it to me. After I get it in my mailbox, I will take 24 hours to respond back to you. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes. So now let me talk about this. Like, silent deaths are happening. Are they because of COVID? Let me explain something. We have noticed silent deaths. We have seen long COVID happening, right? Those phenomena are still good. Those clinical scenarios cannot be missed. So we don't know, but we need to basically investigate. That is a bad part about Corona, that those who suffered from it, we are seeing those kind of things happening in the community. It's not just one system; it is affecting neural system, brain. It is affecting brain. It is affecting heart. It is affecting lungs. It is affecting kidneys. joints, you name it and it is causing that. Even pancreas are affected. So, you name the system and it is basically getting affected because of corona. It's a multi-system disorder, right? So, if you ask me what are the investigations to be done, yes, there is a battery of tests which have to be done. And, I can definitely point out to those battery of tests. But bottom line, basically, we can prevent it. Okay, if it is identified early on, we can prevent many of them, right? And when I'm talking about prevention, we can see numbers are of no use. Like even if I say 98%, still someone is 2% is still meeting that adverse outcome, right? So we have to understand that there is only so much can be said about it, right? And you may sometimes feel, oh, he said 98%, and I still saw some 2 deaths happening, right? Something like that. So that is likely to happen. But we can it can be prevented. There are means of doing that. That's an important thing. Now, recovery. There is a question on recovery. What is your question on recovery? Can you repeat that question, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, just 1 second.
Uh-huh.
The question is on recovery. After 50 plus age group people recover from COVID, what are the precautions they should follow?
Okay. The very first thing is, we have to understand there are the complications. First of all, long COVID. Long COVID can be, you will see some manifestation in some system and other systems are not there. My very first thing is get yourself investigated, get a baseline there, right? If the baseline is good and whichever system is vitiated, work on that particular system, right? Then you have to establish a normal cycle. I'm going to tell you, I have deep faith in sleep as a recovery mechanism. I have good faith in normal balanced diet. Stop any of your smoking. Not that smoking is associated with COVID, but stop your smoking. Go into good habits. Develop your endurance. Do some exercises, physical activities, right? After you get a baseline. If the baseline says that there are problems, your doctor is going to treat. But if the baseline is normal, I would rather say do not worry about it. Just go into better lifestyle. Make a lifestyle change. It was a wake-up call.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
we have a
much.
lot of questions. I will send you all the questions and you may answer them.
Kindly do that. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir, for sparing time for our students and interacting, answering their queries, clearing their queries. Now I request Dr. Nisa Askari, who is Academic Associate in our Department of Advertising and Public Relations, to please propose a vote of thanks. Dr. Nisa Askari.
Thank you, sir. So, good evening to all, one and all who are present here. It's indeed a moment of honor for me to present vote of thanks on behalf of the Indian Institute of Mass Communication. We extend our deep gratitude towards Shashank Hera, our esteemed speaker for today, for sharing his knowledge and valuable insights. His words definitely added to our perspective about the challenge that is staring right in front of us. It's indeed very important that the right information is shared at the right time. We express our sincere gratitude to Honorable Director General IIMC, Professor Sanjay Dwivedi ji, without whose vision this dialogue series could not have been possible. Our sincere thanks to Additional Director General IIMC, Shri Ashish Goyal ji, for his valuable support in this initiative. We are also grateful towards Professor Sunetra Sen Narayan and Professor Pramod Kumar for coordinating this dialogue. Special thanks to the IT and social media teams for making this a successful session. Last but not the least, our heartfelt gratitude to all the delegates for their presence and our very dear students. Your active participation make these series a really fruitful endeavor. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Sincerely appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It was a great pleasure talking with you all. If there are anything where I can be of help, I will be more than willing to do that. This is an August Institute. I have great honor and respect for your institution and your people. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.